You're really looking at how you manage the problem, how you manage risk and so on. So I'd have thought something like that. The presumption has got to be that trans women are not winning, as we've seen in the recent court case.
And that as men, they should be in men's prisons.
So
Rupert, I'm ever so sorry to cut you off. I really, really am. You'll understand why shortly, but we just got to go to a break.
Adult-oriented, neo-political populist radio chat on Talk.
Car owners, you could be owed thousands in compensation. If you bought a car on finance from 2007 onwards, it may have been sold with hidden commissions. Text TALK to 86688. My Claim Group. Authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. You don't need to use a CMC. You can claim direct to your lender and the Financial Ombudsman for free. Text TALK to 86688.
Claims made simple.
Vodafone's new customer service is a little bit different. It's called Just Ask Once. Message them on the Vodafone app. You deal with one person and they keep you updated until it's sorted. So you can get on with your day. Walkies it is then. Just Ask Once. Customer service made easy from Vodafone, the nation's network.
Available via your My Vodafone app. Messaging service only. Exclusions apply. Vodafone UK, supporting the nation since 1984. More details, vodafone.co.uk/network.
MyMotorworld.com.
Do you need protection and gloss for your car? Use new CarPlan Demon Shield. Get up to 6 months of brilliance in just 10 minutes with a simple spray and wipe. CarPlan Demon Shield, the smart paint work sealant for your car. Let the demon do the work. Buy now at mymotorworld.com. mymotorworld.com.
Direct Line's flexible business cover means I only pay for the cover I need. That's how it's done. Imagine if that's how everything got done. Like dominating the pub quiz.
Final question. What is the population of Mongolia?
3,537,947.
Is absolutely correct. This week's winner is none of your business.
Direct Line. That's how it's done.
Underwritten by UK Insurance Limited.
Mirror, Signal, Drive, Talk, Travel Trouble.
In Hampshire, the M3 is closed northbound for emergency repairs. It's shut at junction 9 for the A34. In Cheshire, long delays on the M6 northbound. That's partly blocked after a collision between junction 20 for the M56 and junction 21 for Woolston. And in Surrey, delays on the M25 clockwise after a collision earlier, just after junction 9. That's the turn-off for Leatherhead. I'm Adam Moore.
So, what are you watching at the moment?
Squid Game, Dad.
Let's watch it together this weekend.
That'd be nice. What's it on again?
Netflix. You've got EETV, so you just switch it on.
What season are we up to?
4.
That's Stranger Things, Mum.
And what about the kids?
Don't worry, they'll watch Cocomelon for the 100th time.
Switch on Netflix with EETV. Plus, change up sports and entertainment. It's TV with the ultimate flex for the whole family.
EETV requires EE broadband. Separate 24-month contracts for TV and broadband. Content may vary. Terms apply.
Listen. Watch. Talk. Audio-visual sensorama. Facing up to the facts. This is Talk.
Yeah, sorry to cut that last interview somewhat short, but I have some breaking news, and that is this. With great regret, we bring you the heartbreaking news that our very own James Whale has passed after his terminal cancer battle. He was 74 years old. James Whale began his career way back in 1975 when he pioneered the late-night phone-in. In his time, he hosted numerous shows for ITV, the BBC, finally ending up with us here at Talk Radio in 2016. Talk's Mike Graham brings you this, a moving tribute to the broadcasting legend that was James Whale.
Broadcaster James Whale, MBE, has died, aged 74. James began his remarkable career in the early 1970s when he pioneered a new kind of radio in Britain, the late-night shock jock phone-in. By the late 1980s, the James Whale radio show had become a cultural phenomenon, broadcasting every weekend on ITV. He attracted millions of viewers, making him a household name.
Ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy the Saw Doctors!
James would go on to host a variety of programmes for ITV, Sky and the BBC before finding a new audience with talk radio, all the while continuing to make headlines during his appearance on Celebrity Big Brother. In 2006, after surviving kidney cancer, James launched Kidney Cancer UK, raising hundreds of thousands of pounds.
The problems with all cancers is nobody bothers to get checked. And if you get checked early, then you will actually have a much better outcome. But people don't do that.
In 2024, James was awarded an MBE in the New Year Honours, recognising his extraordinary contribution to broadcast and charity.
If I have a few more months, that will be great. If I have until next Christmas or this coming Christmas, will be nice, wouldn't it? But if I die tomorrow, I've had an amazing time and I married an amazing lady.
James Well broke the rules, he shaped the airwaves and did it all on his own terms. For millions, James wasn't just a broadcaster. He was a companion, a provocateur and a good friend that we'll all never forget. God bless you, James. We'll miss you.
And before James passed, he recorded this, his final goodbye.
I'm in the hospice, and I probably won't be here next week, but I'm fine. I've got so many drugs in me, I can't feel a thing. What I wanted to say really was, a lot of people get very upset when someone is going to die. I'm the person who's going to die. And I'm quite relaxed about it, aren't I?
You have come to terms with it brilliantly.
You find it more difficult?
I do find it quite difficult, and the hardest bit is when people are sending you such lovely messages, you know, some voice notes and little messages saying how important you've been in their lives and everything, and it's just thank you for those messages. It's really quite moving.
Well, we end up crying quite a lot.
They make us cry, but in a good way.
Yeah, I have no pain from this voice. It just won't work.
And it's such a shame for you, because obviously your voice is your thing.
Yeah, but the sun is shining. And I'm kind of going through my life, if you like. And I'm very upset and worried about Nadine.
Oh, don't worry about me. We've been having some lovely time reminiscing about all the lovely things we've done, haven't we?
We've had a good time together, haven't we?
The best.
I love you.
I love you too. Shall we sign off on the podcast?
Thank you for being a listener. I hope it helps in some way. And who knows what's next. So I can only say au revoir.
Yes, that's very good. Au revoir, not goodbye.
Bye-bye, guys.
OK, so this might just be the hardest thing that I've ever done. So the news is James Whale has passed away at the age of 74 after his terminal cancer battle. I don't really want to be one of these people that says, oh, yes, well, I knew James, and, you know, to make it all about me. There'll be a lot of that, I suspect, in terms of, you know, pictures of people with James and so on. But I do have my own little story, which is when I got into this particular business some years ago, it was with him, James Whale. I asked to go and do paper reviews on a certain other station that might begin with B and end in C. And lo and behold, my first paper review ever was on that particular channel, on The Breakfast Show. Guess who the host was? It was James Whale. And I was very, very worried indeed, I can tell you, because James, of course, comes with a certain reputation. That reputation is one of being rather bold, rather outspoken, and rather formidable. But I have to tell you that from my first encounter with James, and I did a number of paper reviews with him on that channel, he was nothing but delightful to me. I'd go as far as to say that he almost put his kind of metaphoric arm around me. And then, coincidence of coincidences, I then get a call many, many years ago from producers here at Talk when we were in another place up the road. And it was a producer on behalf of James. James had come over to talk and asked me to appear on his show, which I duly did. I was delighted to do. So I rocked up face to face and was kind of reunited with the legend. And I know we use that word a lot on this station, but no one's going to argue with me with regard to that word being used, I can tell you that. So reunited with James I was, and then again, roll forward a few months, in fact it might have been a year or two, and me with my sharp elbows trying to persuade the producers here at Talk that I should have a shot at doing this very thing that I'm doing now, which is to present a show. And I get a call from Chuck Thomas, who is one of the producers here, executive producers, who asked me to fill in for James Whale as his understudy, if you like, on a show that he was unable to do because he was ill. So I have to say, it's my great privilege to have done that. And I'm not sure if it's a privilege or not, but yes, having to do this is not easy at all. I can tell you that. Right, what we're doing now, guys, because this is obviously a bit of a curveball. There's early this month, I guess. Sorry, they just put this in front of me. Sorry, I had to do my little bit there because he was instrumental in assisting me in my so-called career here. It's I don't know what's the word. Rather an unfortunate coincidence that I'm here announcing his passing. James gave his final interview amid his cancer battle in his most compelling interview to date. An emotional James sat down with Reform UK leader and longtime friend Nigel Farage at his home in Kent as he looked back on his legendary broadcasting career and the world of politics. Here it is.
Thanks, Nigel.
James, you're a complete star.
I hope I've got more than a few weeks, but...
Well, so do I.
That's really made me...
So do
good.
I. And you never know, miracles do happen.
They do.
They do happen. Well, your career's been a miracle.
Yeah. Well, it has, considering I had no A-levels, O-levels, CSEs, or even a letter after my name for broadcasting.
You said to me the other day, you've never really had a job.
I haven't.
Well, a man that knew James Whale more than most, my colleague, my friend Jeremy Kyle, joins us now. Jez, what can we say?
Don't know, mate. Really, it's really difficult to put into words the impact that the legend that was James Whale had on so many people. You can talk about the job he did. I just heard your personal tribute. The only reason I got into this craziness was him. He was an absolute fearless legend, a man who believed that it was about people, believed it was about opinion, never shied away from being brave enough to say what he felt. That resonated with me early doors. And listen, I just got a call from Den, and it's so heartbreaking. It's one of those things where you believed it was coming. We were really lucky.
Well,
Mike and I...
He trailed it, Jez, hadn't he, in fairness? So everybody knew it was coming, but I certainly didn't expect
But that's the measure of the man, that he was able to talk because he knew that would benefit perhaps other people who wouldn't perhaps think to do something. I just was going to say I'm so pleased. I just spoke to Denny. We both had listen. We were lucky enough last week with MG to go down to see James in the hospice before really anybody knew he was in the hospice, and it was an amazing afternoon. And I know when somebody passes, it's tragic, but he was so funny. Just
and
the James I knew.
And Jez, we've got to pay tribute to this man, not just as the man, but I'm not sure the likes of Talk would exist without him being the pioneer of talk radio and talk TV back in the 80s and 90s. You know, I still remember his approach, his attitude, if you like, when he was on late night television back in the 80s, you know. And of course he's been fired from a lot of places. Now I hope it's not inappropriate to say that, and the Dean won't mind me saying, but I think that pioneering attitude, that approach, those sharp elbows will define that man as the pioneer of talk TV and radio, don't you think?
I think that there's nothing more poignant that his career ended up on a station called Talk, because you're absolutely right. Not only was he synonymous with Talk Radio, to me, he was the founder of Talk Radio. The only reason I got into it, as I said, was because there was this just inimitably... He's just so brave in his broadcasting, and people, whether they agreed with him or they disagreed with him, and they might spend their whole life disagreeing with everything or agreeing, but they appreciated the fact that he said
mate,
what he felt.
You know how this works. It all starts with the news. We've got to go to the news, I'm afraid, mate. Let me talk to you a bit later on. Jeremy Kyle, thank you very much for your tribute.
Talk. News. Update. On the hour. Headlines.
As you've been hearing, talk radio and broadcasting legend James Whale has died aged 74 after a long battle with cancer. He was a trailblazer in the industry whose career began back in the 1970s. James pioneered a new kind of radio with his late-night shock jock phone-in, and by the 80s he was a household name. James went on to work for ITV Sky and the BBC before finding a new audience here at Talk. He recorded one last message for his fans alongside his wife, Nadine.
The sun is shining, and I'm kind of going through my life, if you like, and I'm very upset and worried about Nadine.
Oh, don't worry about me. We've been having some lovely time reminiscing about all the lovely things we've done, haven't we?
We've had a good time together.
That's James Whale there speaking with his wife Nadine, who has died now at the age of 74. Elsewhere today, households in Scotland are being urged to secure trampolines and garden furniture as Storm Floris gathers strength. Planes have been grounded and trains cancelled. High winds have just shut the Forth Road Bridge for double-decker buses, while the Tyne crossing in East Lothian is also closed. Meteorologist Joe Wheeler says people need to heed the warnings.
Because at this time of year, you've got campers, you've got caravanners, you've got people in small craft, you've got people who want to go hiking, rambling, cliff walking, all those things which really aren't a very good idea in strong winds.
The Home Secretary's pledged a new and stronger approach to tackling the small boat channel crossings crisis. Yvette Cooper's giving £100 million of extra funding for efforts to crack down on them, including 300 more National Crime Agency officers. Israel's understood to be planning a new military operation to free its remaining hostages in Gaza. The IDF's previously avoided going into parts of the strip where it's thought people are being held in case it puts them in danger. That's the latest. I'm Sinead Garvan.
Talk. News. Update.
Running a business can be expensive, which is why at NFU Mutual we don't charge admin fees with our trades insurance, so you can easily make changes when you need to. No wonder 9 out of 10 of our business insurance customers renew every year. With agency offices across the UK, we're closer to you, closer to your business, closer to what matters. For quality trades insurance to suit all sizes, search NFU Mutual Builders and Trades Insurance.
Across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, the home of common sense. This is Talk. Tune in, speak out, the Afternoon Empire.
Welcome back. Ladies and gentlemen, the very sad news this afternoon, and I'm the one to be breaking it to you, that our own James Whale has passed, further to his terminal cancer battle. He was, of course, 74 years old. As Jeremy Kyle just said, we knew this was going to happen, but it still doesn't prepare you for the passing of someone so iconic and legendary, frankly. Began his career, of course, back in 1975. Wow, 50 years of broadcast. He pioneered the late-night phone-in, as I've just been rehearsing with Jeremy Kyle. I don't think Talk Radio and Talk TV would even exist, let alone be as it is, if it wasn't for not just people like him, but him specifically. His robust nature, his comedic approach, his boldness, his sharp elbows have really defined particularly what I think this particular station is all about. Yes, we are devastated, as I'm sure you are. The tributes are pouring in. We'll get to some of those shortly, particularly by text. And look, keep them coming, 87222, with your thoughts and words and experiences of James Whale, who has left us today, unfortunately. One man that also knew him is, of course, the last person that he interviewed, which is Nigel Farage. Nigel, thanks for joining me.
No, thank you. And I'm obviously very sad news. Expected, but very sad. But James genuinely was a broadcasting pioneer, a broadcasting legend, the king of late-night phone-ins. I mean, and you mentioned the word comedic a moment ago. I mean, he would often take a position that was entirely contrary to what he really believed in, just for the sake of public debate. And if you think about that in the broader context of what freedom, democracy, society is all about, James was completely a part of it. When he was serious, of course, he really passionately believed in things, and he was grounded in very, very good values. But I first met him in the late 1990s, and the first time I met him, I went in to do a 10 o'clock till 10:30, let's get the newspaper headlines type thing, and I finished up staying on with him till 1 a.m., and I thought, well, how the hell am I going to get home? And James gave me a lift. And he became a good friend over the years, somebody who I just thoroughly enjoyed being with, somebody who loved life. And of course, he, after the death of his wife, Melinda, he found love again with Nadine. And just everything about the world, about humanity, about debate, all of that was encapsulated in James. So James Whale, R.I.P.
Did you ever have a crossword with him, Nigel?
We disagreed on things very strongly. Yes, of course. I mean, James, underneath...
He didn't care who his audience was. He didn't care who he was with or who he spoke to. If he believed something, or as you say, if he wanted to entice debate, he would certainly do so. He wasn't fazed by anybody, no matter what their profile.
No, he was wholly unafraid of that. And there were things that we agreed strongly on and things we disagreed on, and we'd argue about it over a glass of something, but always in the right spirit. And this is what we've lost. We've lost the art of having really vibrant debate, but at all times respecting the right of the other person to have an opinion.
Yeah. Well, he was certainly the opposite of woke, Nigel, wasn't he?
Oh, well, he certainly woke him, but woke never came into the equation with James at any point in time. And he was, he loved to provoke debate. And he'd been to America. He'd seen the phenomenon of talk TV in America, and he came back in the sort of middle 70s, and it was Radio Newcastle just over 50 years ago where he started doing it. And boy, look how it's taken off. And yeah, arguably, talk wouldn't even exist if he hadn't brought this to the country in the first place.
And as we've been saying, I think that's absolutely 100% correct and true. I think he was a pioneer, his sharp elbows, as I keep referencing. And how much of an honour and a privilege was it for you to be his last interview?
Well, I was very touched, very moved to sit with him in that lovely garden in Kent on a beautiful summer's afternoon. And yeah, he wasn't in great condition at all, but he was so determined to make this his last ever broadcast. And I was honoured that he asked me to do it. I felt, to be honest, quite emotional during that interview, in knowing what it meant. But no, very, very honoured that he asked me. And just shows you, doesn't it, even though he was given less than 2 weeks to live, he still wanted to do that one last interview, which kind of sums him up, really.
Well, it does, because, look, he's been ill, obviously a number of times. I think he suffered with cancer a few years ago, which obviously he got over. Very famously, he publicly declared his condition many months ago, 2 or 3 years ago, on the basis that he was trying to raise the profile of the disease in terms of men in particular. You know what we're like, Nigel, none of us want to go and get checked. We all think that we're fine. None of us want to go to the doctor and so on. So he did his very, very best to raise the profile of the disease in that respect. But I suspect, and I don't know this as fact, but he probably had the bosses here at Talk saying to him, look, just relax, just rest, just chill out. But he was determined, almost to the last the last few days and weeks, to continue doing his show. And that is the measure of the man, isn't it?
Yeah, he carried on doing his show. In fact, his last Express column appeared this morning, ironically, which is quite extraordinary, in which he wrote that he was very sanguine about dying. He felt that he'd lived the life that he'd lived, and while 74 might not be old, it's not the end of the world. You see, James had a kidney out, and I'm going back now to the mid-1990s. So James had kidney cancer. We're going back almost 30 years. And it's one of the things that we bonded on, because I'd had cancer as a young man as well. So one of the things that sort of joined James and I was an attitude that once you've been through that and gone through that, well, you know what? You might as well just make the most of it. And he loved what he did. He loved broadcasting. He was a total natural. There was no script. Never any script with James or anything like that. Forget about that.
The other thing that you're bonded by, of course, was his almost foray into politics, of course. It won't surprise anybody to learn that he flirted with the idea of getting more involved in politics itself rather than just being a commentator. He fancied having a stab at being London mayor. Do you remember that?
He did, yes. I was leader of UKIP, and James and I were chatting, and he was very seriously considering running for London mayor. We're going back a few years now. This is back in Ken Livingstone's time, but he had a very, very serious thought about having a go to run at London mayor. In the end, he decided not to do it. But current affairs, debate, humour, acerbic wit. These were all things that really was part of James. But I mean, what was so wonderful really was sort of the midnight to 1 o'clock hour. When phone-in shows, and I've done a couple myself, phone-in shows often get some quite strange callers, and this was James absolutely at his best.
Well, he encouraged such, of course, and someone should maybe do a tally of the amount of people that he's thrown out of, this studio, let alone all of the studios he's ever worked in over the last 50 years or so. I mean, it probably numbers in the hundreds, I suspect, in terms of the people that he's seen out of the door with a thick ear.
Oh, yes. I mean, if people came on with ideas that he thought were utterly moronic, he would not hold back in saying so in no uncertain terms. And that was part of the entertainment value. But you know what? It was never nasty.
No.
It was never vicious. It was always a little bit more in jest than it was anything else. And, no, he'd be very, very sorely missed. But he's left a legacy by, getting this genre going off the ground 50 years ago, that many of us, including you and me right now, have directly benefited from.
No, indeed, and I've recounted my own personal experience with James. I didn't know him well, but I have had various encounters with him in broadcast, particularly when I was trying to plough my first furrow, so to speak, Nigel, on BBC Essex, as it was, many, many years ago, doing paper reviews. And as I was just saying, I don't know if you heard my brief tribute to him a few minutes ago, I was very, very worried about facing off with James Well indeed. I mean, I'm just a gobby Essex estate agent, as people keep reminding me. But the man was a beautiful individual. I mean, certainly where I'm concerned, he was supportive. I'm not saying he gave me an easy ride as such, but he wasn't ferocious, he wasn't rude. And then, of course, he pulled me back into this very place, Talk, a few years later. And then it was genuinely a great honour and an amazing experience to be asked to cover one of his shows when I was first starting out as a presenter. And I heard later on that it wasn't just the bosses here, but it was James himself who said, no, give this young Essex upstart a go. I think he'll be all right. And so it was a big chance. He had, I think, the biggest show in terms of the biggest audience on Talk at that very time. And to say I was a little nervous, Nigel, would be an understatement, as you can imagine.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, he could be sharp, he could be acerbic, there could be a touch of sarcasm, but there was never any hint of meanness, and I think that's what you're really driving at, and he could be very, very kind to people and very generous to people, and I mean, right throughout broadcasting, newspaper, and don't forget, we had television shows as well over the years. He's a much-loved figure through the industry, and even though we knew that the end wasn't very far away, he still represents a very, very sad loss. And I think there'll be a lot of comment and debate over the next few days just about what a significant role he played in changing the face of British media. But to me, above all, the most important thing is that he was a friend. And somebody that I could chat to and laugh with and joke with and agree with and disagree with and share a glass of wine with. And my thoughts are with the Dean today in a big, big way.
Well, and I suspect that given your rise in politics, and, some people are even tipping you to be the next Prime Minister, Nigel Farage, I suspect that his counsel as such, in terms of you occasionally speaking to him and giving your opinion on something, you would be guaranteed to get back a very straightforward, very common sense and very honest opinion, even though it's you, from him in terms of his candour. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, it would. And I'll be honest, he was one of those people very much encouraging me a year ago to get back into politics, to get back into the game. And very much after that last interview in the Garden, He really wanted me to succeed. He wants me to be the next Prime Minister, for me to be the next Prime Minister. And that was, partly through friendship, but also his judgment that basically the country's in real trouble, that the values that he'd lived by, the values that he understood were really under threat, and he thought I was the best bloke to fight that and take that on. So yeah, it's a very thoughtful day for me too.
Thoughtful and sad. We'll all shed our own tears, no doubt. I nearly did a few minutes ago, as you could probably hear, listeners. Very emotional. Nigel Farage, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to pay tribute to James Whale, who passed today. Thank you very much indeed. He boasted, of course, a long list of accolades. Alongside his long-standing broadcasting career, James was also a cancer awareness advocate and an author. However, as I mentioned to Nigel, one thing he regretted was not becoming Mayor of London. Wow, if only that had happened. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
I did the MEP thing, of course, for many, many years, although I'm not sure I took it that seriously. We did talk all those years ago about you running for London Mayor. Weirded up with Sadiq. It might have been better if we'd had you, James.
That's not my fault, by the way. We were going, my wife at the time were going to ITV, and she turned to me and she said, they're taking you seriously. And I said, well, that's good, isn't it? She said, no, you need to decide before you go on air now whether you want to be an MP or you want to be a broadcaster. And I couldn't see why I should, because I'm quite a good broadcaster, and I thought I could be quite a good member of Parliament. And I thought, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And if I do something wrong, if I actually overtread the mark, then sack me or fine me or do something like that. But why should I have freedom taken away?
Well, the man, the legend. I was talking to Jeremy Kyle earlier on, and the irony, Jeremy's still there. Thank you for hanging around, Jezza. The irony of me having to cut you off, Jeremy Kyle, another legend, to go to the news in the middle of a broadcast. I mean, honestly.
Who made that decision?
Well, I just do as I'm told. Did you hear the tributes from Nigel Farage, particularly when it came down to talking about the London Mayor thing? I mean, can you imagine what kind of mayor he would have been? Forget the fact that he would have handed Sadiq Khan his backside, I suspect, in many respects. But can you imagine James Whale as London Mayor? I relish that thought, mate, don't you?
I do, and what's really interesting is with all of these things, when they sink in, the emotion is terrible, and then you think, and I'm sitting listening to Nigel, and I'm smiling. You talk about comedic and passion and broadcasting ability. Yes, he could have been London Mayor. James Whale would have been a success and a legend, frankly, whatever he did, Russell. But the thing about his broadcasting ability that very, very few people, and I mean this, there's few people that are that able to walk into a studio and be as genuinely real and as they are off camera, off mic, as they are on. It is so unique. And I go back to what I said. I used to listen to him. I used to want to be him. I used to lay in bed at night listening to his late night phone shows. And the first time I met him, and he was so nice to me.
Did he genuinely inspire? Did he inspire your career?
Only reason, I mean, anybody who, poor old bugger's to blame for this. Absolutely, 30 years. And last week, I didn't get a chance to go into more detail. We knew he was poorly, and Den and MG and I went down to see him in the hospice, and it was an incredible day. And Nadine was there, and he was watching the birds, and it was just. And I'm not going to say it on air, but he had us howling. I mean, he literally had us howling, because I think what Nigel said and what he pertained to was, I think he'd sort of accepted it. I think he'd got to a point. Of course, he was concerned about Nadine, and we will all do our absolute damnedest, and rightly so, for that amazing lady who's been so stoic. But there's a moment, I think, he was trying to explain to us where it's not that you accept it and you want to pass, but, you know, you start to look back. This man, I heard the word legacy, right? Too many people nowadays, right? What's your legacy? James Whale would be, in my mind, easily in the top 3 or 5 radio presenters in the history of broadcasting. You're absolutely right when you say he was a pioneer. A complete lack of fear. right? When he was on the television, when he was on the radio. I love what Nigel said when he said that, sometimes he'd just do it. But there was never malice. There was no malice or forethought with him. It was, he loved debate. He loved arguments.
But it was also, it wasn't contrived. It wasn't, 4 hours of preparation and thinking about a soundbite in advance. He was inspired. It was...
But I think this is the thing. I think that audiences are far cleverer than a lot of people give them credit for, and I think they absolutely can understand genuine, decent, normal opinion. By that I mean, you could have spent 3 hours talking to James and have a diametrically opposed opinion to his, but you'd have that discussion, like Nigel said, and then you'd go and have a glass of wine. There wasn't any malice, but he was super sharp and super quick and super funny. And, the other day, we always had a phrase between us that he taught me many, many years ago. And I use this all the time. And I guess it's easy. Piers and I were talking about this the other day. When you've had a bit of, you had a bit of heat. James had heat. I've had heat. Piers. It's easier to say this, but it's true. He said to me, you know what, Jez? There's still so many broadcasters that are so scared of losing their jobs that they forget to do their damn jobs. And if you think about James Whale, and that's why I would credit Talk's bosses, Denny and Scott, because this guy, I mean, he cared far more than you would think he cared, but he was brave. He was a brave broadcaster.
And Jez, when we talk about legacy, we are that man's legacy, because what he told you, you have told me. So seriously, this whole thing goes from, should we call him the father of talk broadcast, and filters down to, you, I have to say, I hate to admit this, but another broadcasting legend, all the way down to a lowly gobby Essex estate agent like me that's trying to have a go at broadcast. I don't
know what he saw in you. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I wish I'd had that conversation with him.
Nor do I.
But I loved what I loved about, I used to listen to his podcast every Saturday with Nadine and read his columns, but he was a mate, and I mean, I'm just, look, devoted and devastated and really trying to hold it together, but it's not about that.
No,
it's
and
about
you know what? Hundreds and hundreds of
remembering.
And I'm going to cut you off again now because it's my show and I can, Jez. But only on the basis that we have hundreds of tributes flooding in to Talk Towers here by text, by phone, by voice notes. We're going to get to those, but we're going to take a break first because I definitely need to have a glass of water, maybe something stronger, and take a breather. Back after this.
Speak Out, the Afternoon Empire on Talk.
Vodafone's new customer service is a little bit different. It's called Just Ask Once. Message them on the Vodafone app. You deal with one person and they keep you updated until it's sorted, so you can get on with your day. Walk his ears then. Just Ask Once. Customer service made easy from Vodafone, the nation's network.
Available via your My Vodafone app. Messaging service only. Exclusions apply. Vodafone UK, supporting the nation since 1984. More details, vodafone.co.uk/network.
Car owners, you could be owed thousands in compensation. If you bought a car on finance from 2007 onwards, it may have been sold with hidden commissions. Text TALK to 86688. My Claim Group. Authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. You don't need to use a CMC. You can claim direct to your lender and the Financial Ombudsman for free. Text TALK to 86688.
Claims made simple.
Darren could get an offer from a random car dealer. Or sell direct to We Buy Any Car. The dealer could come to his home, kick his tyres, then decide not to buy it. Or he could get a guaranteed sale, leaving more time to take his other half on a romantic getaway. Oh no. Or ooh la la. To get a quote in 30 seconds, enter your reg number now at WeBuyAnyCar.com.
Does the thought of renewing your travel insurance weigh you down? Does it make you feel like you want to bang your head against a brick wall? Why not use Confused.com and feel more... like a balloon. A balloon in the shape of a person who's no longer weighed down by travel insurance. And balloons don't have a nervous system, so they feel no pain. Travel insurance feels better when you've just used Confused.com.
Mirror, Signal, Drive, Talk. Travel trouble.
Hampshire, the M3 is still closed northbound for emergency repairs. It's shut at junction 9 for the A34, with queues back to Eastleigh at junction 12. In Gloucestershire, the M5 southbound is partly blocked after a collision between junction 16 for the A38 and 17 for Cribbs Causeway. And in Cheshire, the M53 southbound is partly blocked after a collision. That's happened just by the exit to Ellesmere Port and Queen Street at junction 9. I'm Adam Moore.
Vodafone's new customer service is a little bit different. It's called Just Ask Once. Message them on the Vodafone app. You deal with one person and they keep you updated until it's sorted, so you can get on with your day. Walk his ears then. Just Ask Once. Customer service made easy from Vodafone, the nation's network.
Available via your My Vodafone app. Messaging service only. Exclusions apply. Vodafone UK, supporting the nation since 1984. More details, vodafone.co.uk/network.
Just Talk, with 28-day matured conversation. Across the UK, have you got the guts for talk? The home of common sense. This is Talk.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it is my sad duty, I'm afraid, to announce the passing of James Whale. James Whale, OBE, of course. Lots and lots of tributes flooding in. You've heard from Jeremy Kyle, you've heard from Nigel Farage. We're going to hear from Charlie Mullins in a second, who's a very, very good friend of James. And I can't begin to tell you how many text messages there are and calls flooding into the switchboard, which, understandably, you will not be surprised, is melting. Let me just try and get through some of these, and hopefully without me tearing up too much. Heather says, Heather Saul, James Whale is going to be missed by us all. He's well loved by us all. We love our dear friend James with all our hearts. Rest in peace, dear friend James Whale. Our love goes to his wife and his family. Adrian Baird says, you and Mike did the wonderful James Whale proud with your tributes. Like many others, he improved my life by his broadcasting. R.I.P. Thoughts and condolences to his family. Pamela Mitchinson says, so sad to hear about James's passing. I know it wasn't unexpected, but it still hits hard. Legend and gentle giant will be missed and never forgotten. Layla says, saddened to hear the news of James. He was an absolute legend. We are going to hear that word an awful lot. Legend, icon, father of broadcasting. You're going to hear that a lot. Get used to it. Very apt. Nicholas says, my condolences to Lady W, Nadine and all the team, especially Ash, of course. Those guys have worked together, well, since God was a boy. And so on and so on. We'll get to more and more of these, no doubt, throughout the rest of the day. I'm here till 4 o'clock. Peter Cardwell after this, of course, will carry on with the tributes. But let's speak to Charlie Mullins now, who I'm sure has a few words to say about his friend, his mate, that he was very, very close to. Charlie, thanks for joining me on this very, very sad occasion indeed.
Yeah, hi, Russell. I want to first of all give my condolences to Nadine and his family and all his great friends. Undoubtedly, James was a broadcasting legend. He was also a great friend of mine for over 20 years. A great sense of humour on and off the screen. It's just a one of, and I think we don't really appreciate these people till they're no longer with us. But you know, what a gentleman. I think he played the hard man on the TV, but he had an heart of gold. He set up his own charity, a kidney cancer charity, helped to raise lots of funds for it. Again, he was involved with many other charities. You know, for me, he was a great friend, a great broadcaster.
So he was a proper mate of yours, Charlie?
Of course. I mean, we was very friendly, you know, on and off the screen, probably more off the screen than on. And he was a different character off the screen, but what I loved about the guy was he was straightforward. He didn't put up with no fools, and he told people what he thought of them, if they was wrong or right. And he was just an all-round great guy. And I know you're going to have many people on saying the same thing, but you know, I think I got very close to him after over 20 years, done many shows with him, and always a great sense of humour, but also very to the point when somebody's wrong. I mean, he'd done a TV ad for me where he was in a bath with 100 ducks. He done various other commercials. He just had a great sense of humour.
And he probably wasn't fazed by that at all, was he? And he's probably
well, look,
one...
I was going to say, one year he put our Christmas lights on in Pimlico, and he sat on the toilet outside on the stage, pulled the chain, all snow come down. Not many celebrity people would do that. He came all the way down from Manchester. We went and collected him on that. He was doing a radio show up there. It's one of these people that will never be replaced. There will never be another James Well.
He was certainly one of the most authentic people that you could ever meet. Probably the most authentic person, I think. He certainly didn't care what people thought about him, did he? Whether he was right or wrong. He had an opinion. He would make sure you knew what that was. But as I think Nigel Farage said as well, Charlie, he was also a nice individual. Yes, you would know if you had an opinion that differed from his, and he did throw a few people out of this studio, as we all know. But actually, there was no malice. He wasn't a nasty individual. I think a lot of what he did, actually, of course, we know, was tongue-in-cheek. He was a performer, wasn't he? He was an entertainer.
That's right. I mean, he used to get a lot of stick on the social media, and it never bothered him one bit. It never bothered him at all. He'd still say what he thought. Some people say he was rude, blunt. I think he was just direct. I think he was very honest in what he had to say. And, the greatest time I had with James was when he got his MBE, and we celebrated that at
Charlie, I was going to ask you about that. I was going to ask you what your fondest memories of him, as your good friend, were. And that OBE celebration, I remember seeing that in the newspapers, all across social media. Didn't you lent him one of your many, many cars, I think, didn't you, in terms of the so that you could convey him to the palace? Is that right? To talk us through that.
That's right. Yes, I lent him a couple of my cars, and he was over the moon with it. He went along to, I think it was Windsor. That's correct, and. I think it was Princess Anne that gave him the medal, and he was as chuffed as anything. And of course he was unwell, and still to go through that and come along and celebrate with probably 180 people of old sort of radio DJs and broadcasters and people over the years that he'd met on the TV. There was everybody there, just all and everybody. Eamon Holmes, Nigel Farage. There's just so many, to remember. And many of these people have known him from the early days. And, I was fortunate enough to know him for the last 20 years. And he really thanked me for the cars. He absolutely loved it. It was probably, one of his best days of his life.
And Charlie, you've got to tell us what those cars were, because they were pretty lumpy, weren't they?
Yeah, one was a Rolls Royce, and I think the second was a Rolls Royce.
Well, and befitting his status.
Sorry?
Befitting his status. Very appropriate.
Yes, well, why not? I mean, James was a lot more normal and sort of ordinary than what a lot of people think. He never give it large. He never, I'd go up his pub, up in the country pub he was in the Oude Forty, and he was just a normal guy up there. And, he went in this pub for years, and he had birthdays there, weddings there, just charity functions there, and the guy who owns the pub, Joey, and his family looked after him for forever and ever, but they didn't treat him as a big celebrity. He didn't play the big celebrity, but he was a big celebrity. He was a big character, an amazing sense of humour, and we knew this day was coming, but it's still a shock.
We did, and we've all tried to prepare ourselves for it. I mean, particularly those that are particularly close to him. Nadine, of course, I'm sure has tried, but that's going to be a pretty challenging thing to do, because, of course, when the likes of today happens, obviously, look, it does take the wind out of your sails, and no more so than for Nadine, but also those around him. I mean, the very, very good friends he's got here at Talk, whether it's Denny Morris, whether it's Jeremy Kyle, whether it's Mike Graham and so on. Of course, look,
many friends,
many friends here, and everyone is devastated. So, and you'll have to forgive me if this, if the tributes and this particular presenting slot is a little bit edgy, but hopefully you can all understand why that is. But look, we're getting through it. What other fond memories have you got of the man, Charlie? I mean, particularly, you've known him 20 odd years, as you say. What would happen when he would get fired from a radio or TV station? I say that with a big smile on my face, because I think he was kind of proud of himself in terms of his rite of passage, that he would often fall out with, not here, but would fall out with broadcast bosses, because he was so adept at speaking his mind. I mean, were you ever subject to any of those situations?
Well, I've seen him do it. I mean, you know, me and him never had no fallouts. I mean, but he would still say if he thought I was wrong, I shouldn't have said this. He was very direct, and yeah, I've seen him, you know, on you know the Talk TV there, where he's got rid of guests that are proper pests and nuisances and idiots. Really, he just didn't put up with fools, and I think that's you know one of the things now. Too many people have to put up with some of these idiots that come on the TV and start digging him out, but he just wouldn't have none of it. He'd just say, get out, remove, this is my show. And that's what I loved about the guy. And, you know, right up until the end, I think I see him a couple of weeks ago. And, you know, even then he turned up at a celebration party just before he'd done the interview with Nigel Farage. And he wasn't in a good way. He hasn't been in a good way for a long time. And I mean, to keep going, what he's done is amazing. And the amount of people that he's helped with his weekly podcast, himself and Nadine, regarding suffering with cancer.
And raising the awareness of it. And hopefully, Charlie...
And he did not stop.
And hopefully, Charlie, as a consequence, you know, if we can take, you know, any positive out of this, it's that some of us fellas actually might be a little bit more humble when it comes to such things. And if you've got something that isn't quite right, a feeling, a lump or whatever, you may well now, as a consequence, because of that profile raising, decide to go and get it checked out. Charlie Mullins, look, thank you very much indeed for taking the time. Lovely tribute. I know he's a very, very good friend of yours. We're going to take another break now, and after this, ironically, Ian Collins.
The Batcave of common sense. This is Talk.
Vodafone's new customer service is a little bit different. It's called Just Ask Once. Message them on the Vodafone app. You deal with one person and they keep you updated until it's sorted, so you can get on with your day. Walk his ears then. Just Ask Once. Customer service made easy from Vodafone, the nation's network.
Available via your My Vodafone app. Messaging service only. Exclusions apply. Vodafone UK, supporting the nation since 1984. More details, vodafone.co.uk/network.
Car owners, you could be owed thousands in compensation. If you bought a car on finance from 2007 onwards, it may have been sold with hidden commissions. Text TALK to 86688. My Claim Group. Authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. You don't need to use a CMC. You can claim direct to your lender and the Financial Ombudsman for free. Text TALK to 86688.
Claims made simple.
Does the thought of renewing your travel insurance weigh you down? Does it make you feel like you want to bang your head against a brick wall? Why not use Confused.com and feel more... like a balloon. A balloon in the shape of a person who's no longer weighed down by travel insurance. And balloons don't have a nervous system, so they feel no pain. Travel insurance feels better when you've just used Confused.com.
10K cash for Coldplay.
Play 10K cash for Coldplay with 10 grand in your hand tax-free plus 6 super hot tickets to witness Coldplay's sold-out Music of the Spheres tour from a VIP box at Wembley Stadium on August 22nd.
Tickets, top tunes and 10 grand cash.
Don't panic. Enter to play 10K for Coldplay at talksport.com/win and see the big gig of the summer for you, 4 mates and your HR boss. 10K for Coldplay is a joint TalkSport limited competition run on TalkSport, Talk and Virgin Radio. See talksport.com for terms and conditions.
This is Talk. Max strength conversation across the nation.
There's clearly a very big problem here.
Straight talking and straight to the point.
It's absolute nonsense.
This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm Russell Quirk, in for Ian Collins, but we are now going to speak to Ian Collins for obvious reasons. Due to the news just this afternoon that our good friend and broadcasting colleague James Whale passed today, further to his long battle with cancer. Ian, I guess look, the irony of you coming on now as my guest and I'm covering your show, but you knew James well, Ian, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Hiya, Russell. I knew him for about 30 years. I was just working it out, actually, when we heard this news, and he said, I spoke to him around about 6 days ago when he was in the hospice, and he said, make sure you're on air when the news breaks. And, of course, I wasn't on air when the news broke.
Well, you nearly were. It's your show.
I nearly was, yeah. But he would have found that quite funny, actually. And the strange thing is, I was just looking, and this is just sort of the story of James and kind of what he was about and what he represented in this genre of broadcasting. And you've been playing some of the clips I've noticed since you've been on air. what we do now at Talk, visualizing radio and trend setting that, now the industry across the board tries to copy what we've been doing for a good while now. But James, as a kind of lone standout character in this genre, was doing this way back. I first heard about James through a mate who lived in an area when ITV was all broken up into different regions, and the James Well radio show, which was his radio air show, which was then broadcast on television. But you could only see it firstly in that region, and then it spread across the regions. And a mate of mine said, "You've got to look at this guy." He said, "He's unbelievable." And he used to send me the VHS tapes of this guy called James. Well, I couldn't believe it. He had just all these mad guests on, great musicians, top guests, oddballs, phone-ins. He was doing the lot from
I've used the word in pioneer a number of times. I mean, did you think he was our own version of Howard Stern? I mean, Howard Stern's probably, equally famous globally in terms of... because no one's used this term yet, and I'm not sure it's appropriate or not, but I think James would like this. The original shock jock.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it was. At that time, regional radio was kind of broken up into, obviously, I don't know how many parts across the country, 30, 40 radio stations, and a lot of them specialised in having sort of late-night phone-ins. That became a sort of staple. 10 o'clock at night, they all did it. But only a few of them ever really stood out. But the one that really jumps out to everybody in the industry, which is why James went from being local to national, was James Well. And he was doing this show and cutting people off and having fun. And the kind of humour of the time is, a lot of the woke brigade would go absolutely, tonto these days with some of the stuff that went on and how he got away with it. But it was brilliant. It was in context. And he did it really easily. And he said to me a load of times afterwards that he never actually found it that easy in some respects, because he said he sort of puts on a bravado that he kind of very nicely melts into. And Charlie Mullins was just making the point that, off-air he was a different character. I mean, James was very opinionated still.
But he was, as I said to Charlie, he's a performer, he's an entertainer. I mean, maybe he turned himself on air into a little bit of a caricature of himself, perhaps, for the purposes of entertaining. And he did. He entertained the bloody nation, and he's done it for 50 years.
Absolutely. That's exactly what he did. He was entertaining. And even if he had that, in our industry, the real key to the greatest are those that have people listening to them whether they like them or not, and that's exactly what he had. So even people that would say, "Oh, I can't stand that James Well, bloody big mouth and all the rest of it, never lets people get their say, cuts them off when he disagree," and all that kind. But they still listened, and that was the key, really. He had that sort of mesmeric quality that very few people have, that even if you couldn't stand any of his views, and he upset a lot of people over things like lockdowns and COVID and all the rest of it, but you still listen to the guy.
Yeah, and I think, but Ian, people need to...
He was entertaining.
People need to realise that there was no script, there was no auto cue, there was no sitting there for 4 hours preparing a nice soundbite for 11 minutes into the show or 20 minutes before the show ended. This was completely and utterly instinctive. He may have been a bit of a caricature, I think, sometimes, maybe, over-egged things for the purposes of entertainment because he was an entertainer. But this was natural. It was instinctive. It was him, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was totally that. I mean, he never, ever wrote anything down. He never read, apart from when he was asked to read out something that was a commercial or a promotion for another show.
And he probably ad-lib around that. He'd probably ad-lib around that.
Yeah, and even ad-lib around that. Yeah, sometimes got in trouble for some of that as well, which was part of the kind of delight of his character, that he sort of just didn't care. The other thing that he could do, he could light up a switchboard half an hour before he came on air, so people were calling even before the show started, much to the annoyance of whoever was on before him, who was trying to get...
you would never want...
going or something.
You would never want, and maybe you were one of these people, you would never want to be on the show after him, because he'd build up an audience for you to lose, as they say.
Well, absolutely.
I don't mean you specifically, Ian, by the way. I mean people generally.
Yeah, but it was. I mean, when I started in national radio, it was, for about 5 years, we were on After James, and we used to do these funny I'd go into the studio and do the handover thing, which we still do, of course. And they would sometimes go on forever, and you never knew who was going to be in there. It could be Cleo Roccos from the Kenny Everett Show. It could be Peter Purvis from Blue Peter. It could be Terry Waite, the hostage. I mean, all these different people that were in there. You never knew who was going to be there. Alistair Campbell could be there. I mean, it was just madness. And then, of course, we had to do a show afterwards. And although it was a slightly different show, we were still picking up. Our switchboard would still be people going, off air, can we speak to James, please? And they'd have to go, no, he actually finished 45 minutes ago, but people...
He should, of course, Ian, he's remembered as a radio guy, a radio broadcaster, that shock jock, if it's an appropriate thing to say. But, of course, you know, he had a huge television career. I mean, I remember coming back from the pub when I was about 18 or 19 years old, and he was on Channel 4 at 1 o'clock in the morning. And, of course, he used to have this live audience and would rev them up and would, kind of dispense people if he didn't agree with them, you know, in a very, very, a very straightforward way, should we say. And he used to get thrown off a lot of those shows. You know, he got fired a few times, as I've said. And I say that as a tribute. I say that because I think he was the ultimate renegade, the ultimate rebel, and arguably the ultimate advocate of freedom of speech. I mean, look where we are now in that regard, Ian. I mean, if ever there's an advert for freedom of speech, it's James Weil OBE.
Yeah, absolutely. And he was exactly that kind of character. And what's interesting, when he realised that his cancer was terminal, and, you know, he never hid any of that, he never felt sorry for himself. And I think that, and it's because I think we all think there that for the grace of God, and, you know, God, that was me, I'll be falling apart. And he never did. And Kevin O'Sullivan always said he was the most well-looking terminal cancer patient anyone's ever seen. You know what it was like, Russell, when you bumped into him. He just looked great forever. Even when I spoke to him, you know, about a week ago, because he could hardly speak at this point, he was really down to a whisper, you know, and he answered. I called him and he didn't pick up to start, and he rang me back about 2 minutes later. And I said, "Is that Bob Harris?" And he just started laughing, which apparently isn't the thing to do when someone's in that position, because he then started coughing, and I thought, oh my God. And he said, "You're going to finish me off at this moment, mate." And he carried that humour with
the gallows humour.
The gallows humour. I know,
but you wouldn't expect it from. Well, you would expect it from him because he was authentic and robust. Ian Collins, I've got another 15 minutes of your show. I'm going to leave it there if you don't mind, because we've got lots of calls and texts to get. So that's Ian Collins there, who's back tomorrow. Got some other calls, as I understand it. Lots and lots of you paying tribute, texting on 87222, and of course the word talk, and indeed calling on 0344 499 1000. Leave your voice notes, even if we don't have time to get to them all. You will know that you have laid down, so to speak, a voice note in tribute to the absolute icon, the legend, the father of talk broadcasting, and indeed the father of this station, really, James Weil, who's passed away today. Let me just read you a text tribute, actually. Steve Chandler, and there are hundreds of these, by the way. Forgive me if I don't read all of them out, but you'll understand why. Steve Chandler says, "I remember seeing James sitting in a pub restaurant once in the countryside. I said to my wife, 'That's James Weil over there.' And she said, 'Well, you should go over and say hello to him.' And I said, 'I don't want to be the end of a let's just say rollicking, or it rhymes with rollicking. I preferred hearing his callers getting it." And Steve says, "I wish I had gone over now. R.I.P. James." More of this when we come back. I'm Russell Quirk, and this is Talk.
The Afternoon Empire on Talk.
Car owners, you could be owed thousands in compensation. If you bought a car on finance from 2007 onwards, it may have been sold with hidden commissions. Text TALK to 86688. My Claim Group. Authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. You don't need to use a CMC. You can claim direct to your lender and the Financial Ombudsman for free. Text TALK to 86688.
Claims made simple.
Vodafone's new customer service is a little bit different. It's called Just Ask Once. Message them on the Vodafone app. You deal with one person and they keep you updated until it's sorted, so you can get on with your day. Walkies it is then. Just Ask Once. Customer service made easy from Vodafone, the nation's network.
Available via your My Vodafone app. Messaging service only. Exclusions apply. Vodafone UK, supporting the nation since 1984. More details, vodafone.co.uk/network.
The road stretches before you, but there's trouble ahead. Stationary cars. You're faced with the McDonald's side mission. Do you, A, join the ever-growing queue, or B, take the next exit and treat yourself to a glorious Mackey's?
Detouring to McDonald's.
Start your side mission today.
At Kia, we're excited to announce that the refined new Kia Sportage is available in showrooms now. Secure your test drive today to explore its advanced technology and stylish, sporty design. Order before the 30th of September to get 5.9% APR representative and £1,000 PCP finance deposit contribution. Search the new Kia Sportage to book your test drive. T's and C's apply. Kia Finance.
Kia. Movement that inspires.
Mirror. Signal. Drive. Talk. Travel trouble.
In Hampshire, the M3 northbound is still closed for repairs. It's shut at junction 9 for the A34, with queues back to junction 12 at Eastleigh. In Cheshire, the M6 northbound is partly blocked after a collision between junction 21 at Woolston and 21A for the M62. And in Leicestershire, the M1 northbound is partly blocked after a collision, and that's happened just by junction 23, the turn-off for Loughborough and the A512. I'm Adam Moore.
Join EE, the UK's fastest growing broadband provider today.
Why are so many people joining?
For starters, you get up to £300 to leave your current contract.
So I can leave now with 7 months left.
Exactly. It's also got Wi-Fi control so the kids aren't glued to their devices all day.
Right. I need some of this.
Well, then join the broadband switchers choosing EE.
Verify at ee.co.uk/claims. Up to £300 credited to your EE account. New customers, 50% availability, 24 months. Terms apply.
Turn on, tune in, speak out. A double dose of reality across the UK. The home of common sense. This is Talk.
OK, welcome back on this very, very sad afternoon. We're paying tribute to James Whale of this parish, who has passed away today at the age of 75 after his long battle with cancer. Lots of tributes. We've heard from Nigel Farage and Charlie Mullins, Ian Collins. And now, and this won't be easy for him or for me, we're going to talk to Ash Gould, who, of course, is the long-time co-host of James Whale on this channel. Ash, dare I ask how you're feeling this afternoon?
Yeah, I'm all right, man. It's a bit of a shock, isn't it? I mean, we're all expecting it, and yeah, it's a tough one, man.
How long did you work with him, Ash?
30 years, yeah.
So you probably knew him. You knew him in broadcast terms probably longer than most.
Well, yeah, definitely, yeah, and it was a great ride. I mean, I remember when I first got to work with him, they said we want you to do work with James Whale, and obviously, because when I was 18, I used to watch his show on the TV, and I thought, great, this would be exciting. And it turned out it was exciting, and it was we had a great chemistry, and it just worked, didn't it?
You must have been frightened out of your life, Ash Gould, weren't you? The first time they said to you, come and work with James Whale, and you walked into that studio and the man himself was there and you had to do a show with him. But then you carried on working with him. You managed to do that for 30 years.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely didn't have matching personalities, but we had... can you still see me? Yeah. But people are calling me quite a lot. But I think because of our different personalities is why it worked really well. Do you know what I mean? We sort of.
So you think you were yin to his yang, or the other way around?
Yeah, exactly. I think we sort of had a good balance between us, and so it worked out well. Do you know?
Did he ever get genuinely annoyed with you, Ash, or vice versa?
No. I mean,
because you seem to be a fantastic double act.
I mean. 30 years, you're going to have, little arguments, but nothing major, nothing nasty or anything. But yeah, obviously you have little disagreements, but no problems.
Yeah.
He was different on air and off air, although, he used to wind himself up when he was on air, so it would sort of be real, like a method actor in a way.
Because he didn't suffer fools lightly.
No, he didn't. Yeah. So, yeah.
How many people do you think the pair of you have thrown out of TV and radio studios across the nation over the last 30 years?
Well, I mean, it was mainly him. I just joined in after. Yeah, he probably about...
I think you could handle yourself, Ash Gould. I think it's fair to say.
I could if necessary, but I don't know. It's probably in 3 figures, I would have thought, at least.
Yeah, and he's kind of famous for that. But again, I think not performatively. I think, I mean, again, you know better than most. I think he genuinely used to get just cheesed off with people if they wouldn't answer a question, if they were a politician or if they were a celebrity that was trying to have their 15 minutes of fame at his expense, or they said something that was stupid. He was the archetypal individual to say, no, I'm not having it, off you go, out.
Yeah,
and he meant it. He meant it.
Yeah, I suppose because he saw his show, he was possessive of his show, you know what I mean? It's like his house, so I suppose his dad was a landlord in King's Cross and I never knew him because he died when he was quite young, his dad, but he used to throw people out the pub, and I think he got a lot from his dad, and his mum was Welsh and quite stern. She was a ballet dancer, a professional, so she was quite stern from South Wales, and I think so he sort of got it like that, and it was his domain, and if he didn't like you, he'd say get out, and he did mean it at the time. He would always mean it, you know.
And people always say this in tribute in these situations, and they use, as we've already done several times in the last hour or two, they use these tribute-like words, you know, icon, legend, and so on. But I'm not sure there is genuinely anyone else anywhere in broadcast like James Whale.
No, he was definitely unique, wasn't he? And there's a lot of icons. We saw Steve Wright, didn't we, about a year or two ago, and he was one of the top sort of 5 people, wasn't he? And he was the best at what he did. You know, he would get an audience. People would listen because, you know, you don't know what's going to happen next. So that's what worked really well.
And Ash, obviously, I could talk to you about this on and on and on because the man has such a rich history as a career. There's lots and lots to talk about. But what do you think his legacy is going to be?
I think just being a real broadcaster, not flanneling around or saying things for the sake of it. You have to, and I think that's the secret of being a broadcaster, is that you say it from your heart. You can't contrive stuff. So, and do you that's think? What it'd be. And loads of people I've met have said I got into broadcasting. I mean, you had Jeremy Kyle on earlier, and loads of people have said to me, "I got in. He's one of my heroes. This is why I'm doing."
Well, he gave me a start, and again, I don't want to be one of these people, as I'm sure we'll see on social media, that says, yes, I knew him, and here's a picture of me and him together. It shouldn't be about others. It's absolutely about James. But he, I guess, gave you a start in this industry. He certainly contributed to giving me a start, you know, giving me the opportunity. Yeah. He didn't frighten me off too much when I was doing paper reviews with him back in the day at BBC Essex. And I think the first show I ever did, or one of the first shows I ever did, was with him and with you, Ash, if you remember.
Oh, wow.
And I think, somehow we didn't come to blows, did we, you and I? We got on.
No.
I was definitely, as one texter, actually, I remember that night, one texter tried to explain to us all here that I was no replacement for James Whale. Go figure. No, I didn't think I was. But he wasn't there. You needed a wingman as such, and there I was. But no, he was...
But he was, you know, he liked you. If he liked people, then he, you know, it would just come across. But he was a nice, you know, he was a cuddly guy off air. You know, people think he was like that. He was actually a very friendly, warm person.
He was lovely. So talk to us about some of the things that you really remember as kind of iconic standout moments, you know, whether it's guests, whether it's interviews. Talk to us about some of the things.
There's so many. I mean, we had all the emergency services over the years, police, fire brigade, ambulance, and even the bomb squad came. That was a big moment, I think.
The bomb squad?
Yeah, well, someone sent a fake bomb, but it looked real, you know.
What, into the studio?
Yeah, and it was behind us, and the police cleared the whole building. It was when we were in Oxford Street, 76 Oxford Street. And Wales said, no, we're not leaving because we were on air. So me and him were just the only people in the building. The police said, all right, but you can't leave. Anyway, I took the opportunity to go and have a fag on the stairs, and I went out, and the police were there, and they said, right, you can't go back in. So he was sort of left, you know, and he was technically not very good, you know. So he was just there, stuck at the microphone.
But he was determined not to go, despite the fact that there could have been a very real bomb in the building. Well, that's another measure of the man, isn't it?
Well, it was like next to me, not him. So
you would have shielded him from it.
I would have been the shielding force of it. So,
and who are some of the most famous people that you interviewed, you and him together? Just rattle through some.
I mean, we had you've had all people on. We had Steven Seagal, although he sounded a bit like he was stoned. I think, I don't know. He was a bit weird. He came on and goes, Steven Seagal, hello, and he went, hello, and then he went, and he sort of just going, yeah, just answering, and he just cut him up and went, thank you, Steven Seagal. We had Ray Mansour,
not fazed by his fame at all.
No, he wasn't. I mean, I think that was because, you know, he'd done his TV show for years and he'd met everyone. He interviewed Spike Milligan, he'd interviewed everyone knew him pretty much from that TV
And do you think
show.
that's why he was so, not just outspoken, but so authentic, because he wasn't fazed by it, because he had met everybody.
Yeah,
he had
but that was
interviewed
just
everybody.
him.
Yeah,
that was just him anyway. You know what I mean? He was authentic anyway, so he wasn't fazed by people.
When did you last speak to him, Ash?
I was going to go down today. I phoned yesterday and I said, Whale, I'm coming down to the hospice. And then I got a call back it said James Whale. I thought, he's called me, and it was his wife saying, he was in the hospice. He was they'd given him a lot of drugs, and, they did a great job because he was never in any stress or pain. And she said he's not really he's semi-conscious. So she put me on speakerphone.